We're live on a Sunday. What does that even mean? It's good to be here, though, everybody. This is what we do. This is how we try and process the world by talking and conversing and doing things like this. Because there's a lot going on every day. The world is changing. This is a changing place. It's not standing still. Nothing ever stands still, and there's more going on than ever before. And in many regards, we're reaching a critical threshold with the insanity that has been created for the past. I mean, truthfully, as Peter Schiff says, coming off the gold standard. And even when we were on the gold standard, it, there was decoupling from a gold standard by diluting um, the currency's ratio valuation based on its fundamental gold peg, so to speak. And it was just starting, and that is what happened, and that's what's been going on. And they came off the gold standard entirely, and now we basically have just a worthless fiat currency. So we're seeing the ramifications, the implications of that on a daily basis. I don't think well, we do see it in the headlines. I like to look at the headlines, but you have to have a dialogue with yourself, and sometimes feedback like these live streams will help process what all of this means in a non-sensational way. I mean, we're seeing the repercussions of what they did when they took us off the gold standard and what's going on here. Well, the Dow futures at minus 144. It really should be minus like 3,000 at this point. They've just printed trillions of dollars. And that's really the way to interpret this. This is basically the reality of fundamentals catching up to, actual numbers, printing so many trillions of dollars. This is artificial. It's completely manipulated, and it's basically why I don't trust equities at all. I can't deal with it. Um, you could hear like persons. I mean, look at financial managers, Lynn Alden, brilliant, and Brent and Raul, and then they probably dabble in some regards in these types of systems. But I just, you either have been doing that for 20, 30 years, and you could potentially process how to somehow value these disturbing entities, these equities that have been created. But I can't because I just can't. The fundamental analysis of the markets, it should be completely imploded at this point. I mean, look at what's going on with the virus. We have to act. All right, sensational headlines aside, mathematically speaking, unless something significantly changes in the behavior and or policies which force behavioral changes, we know the way the vast majority of the general public is behaving. They're not doing anything. They don't even want to wear masks. I don't know why they don't fight about seatbelts as much. I mean, the government forces us to wear seatbelts, helmets on motorcycles, and they're totally like going apeshit about masks but not seatbelts. It's just weird. I don't understand the mentality. And we'll see what plays out because generally speaking, what is playing out. Frederick in the house. Yeah. Caterpie's in the house. Script. Yeah. What's up? My man. So, what's playing out is exactly what we know is going to play out, and it's going to play out. Nobody's going to wear a damn mask. The vast majority of persons in countless states, and obviously in New York, folks have gotten the picture because that was crazy what happened in New York. But what's going to play out for the rest of the a plethora of states is straight up the what happens when you don't wear masks at an entire population level. You get community spread, and it's going to spread, and it's going to be a lot. And they're not going to change. So in 3 months from now, we'll check back when the Dow's at minus 3,000, $1,000 drops here and there, and 50,000 infections a day, and then that we'll see. Some crazy shit's gonna play out. Anyway, so I got my awesome peoples in the chat. Caterpie says gold is money. Well, gold is legacy money. It's old school. Goes back thousands of years, and ain't that the truth? What else is more to be said about that? Um, what's more important than what is money is value and purchasing power. And folks really need to think in that perspective. Like, who cares how many dollars you have? What I care about is when I go to the supermarket, how many items I can purchase, or how many assets I could purchase. Can I purchase the entirety of a home, or is my purchasing power not adequate to fulfill that interest? Perspective. I think we'll wear masks until some working. Well, yeah, on a vaccine. Who's going to take the vaccine? Is everyone going to take the vaccine? We know, interestingly enough, the psychology of the vast majority of persons not wearing a mask is distrust. Is that there is a large movement or prevalent ideology that of distrust with the medical establishment. Isn't that interesting? Scary, but I personally don't trust it. Would I take a vaccine? I don't want to be the first person to take a vaccine, even after trials. I don't want to start seeing my fingers fall off, or who knows? I mean, that's the whole point. These are very complicated biological processes that the vaccine is interacting with. They're going to cook up a vaccine in a couple of months, interacting with an immune system that has been in development for millions and millions of years. Um, these are complicated things to consider from a risk management standpoint. Personally, for me, I prefer keep my ass indoors, wear a mask and gloves when I go out. I have no interest in getting infected. I have more important things to do with my time. The odds are I won't be in substantial risk if I got infected. I wouldn't have um, uh, uh, horrible symptoms. I'm not in the most vulnerable age group. I do uh, vape, so I guess I increase my risk in that regard. So this goes into my risk reward calculation. And I have zero interest in taking any risk. And that's how I manage my portfolio. That's how I balance my portfolio. It is an entirely risk mitigated portfolio. Have I taken risks in the past? Absolutely. Should I have taken those risks? I like to think I shouldn't have, or maybe they were here. I took a big risk with regard to battery metals investing probably about a year or two ago, and it was value destructive. And do I regret it? Probably. Damn, it was a good bet. Damn, it was the right company. The fundamental analysis was absolutely spot on, and it will come to pass. And this company likely, Namaska Lithium, will likely be a major player after they deal with their financial restructuring. But the problem is, from a technical standpoint, they got destroyed. They're in bankruptcy, but the fundamentals of the project are they're a systemic component of massive change that's going to come in this decade. It's an inevitability. What do I always say about inevitabilities? If the technology works, if it's financially uh, lucrative, does it make money or save money, and how susceptible to disruption is the legacy system? One, two, three are hit. Green check marks across the board for um, storing energy in non-chemical non-chemical energy storage. We're talking, well, I mean, technically batteries are somewhat of an electrochemical storage system, but it's not combustion. It's a fundamentally different technology with regard to the complexity of the machinery required to extract the energy. Anyway, I'm substantially digressing. I went through years of being so frustrated with why that market wasn't moving faster, and it will pick up during the better part of this decade. But suffice it to say, I mean, look what's going on with the crypto and the banking system and the financial, the economy, and this is moving much faster. So I like to think in terms of inevitabilities, and when something is profitable and it's disruptive of a legacy system, that's where I place my bets. And with regard to stability and value preservation, I focus heavy. gold, silver. Here's an interesting reality. When this market tanks, as crypto Mac Dad says, down minus 3,000, it's going to be minus 3,000, minus 3,000, minus 3,000, and it's going to just get destroyed from a fundamental perspective. And it's going to take everything along with it. It's going to take stocks. It's going to take gold. It's going to take everything, uh, likely. Now, plenty of persons that are way smarter than myself will do an analysis and say that the inflation will send equities to the moon. And gold, because of the inflation, gold is the hedge against inflation, and gold will go to the moon. Who knows what's going to play out? There's only one solution to protect value is diversify the crap out of your portfolio. But then it gets complicated, and that's why we talk portfolio balance. Can't over diversify. Can't go all in and can't spread too thin. Ooh, gotta love catchphrases. Yeah, so that's what's going on in my mind today. That's what's going on in my mind every day. Gotta diversify. Anyway, so I got a couple of tabs open, not too much interesting other than this on a Sunday. We'll look at Twitter in a couple of seconds, but Ren is off to a crazy month. Ooh, we start with the monthly perspective. Did we pass the epoch yet? I don't think so. We are at 6 hours until the first epoch clicks, and we're at $23 million worth of value in volume. And what's most interesting, if you look at the weekly, 17 million of it was in the past week, 23 million for the last month, represented very nicely in the graph. It is just a straight vertical run the last week. 3 million on the daily. I mean, if I like trends, unless there's substantial change in the current environment, trends play out. And look at this trend of the last week. Uh, this thing, the adoption is delicious, so to speak. Gel says, I see it's AMA, and talking price is maybe not your favorite subject, but I'll try. Just ignore if you feel like. Never ignore. I'll talk price. My great concern is the direction of the market as a whole, BTC, FDGP, and so on. I see you got another one text comment. So, but let's talk price. The market's going to get hammered. The volatility of the crypto market is just like the equities market. This is all spec. The vast majority of pricing is speculation, and it's all trading, which is basically cutthroat motherfuckers that are on these markets that when it goes up, they sell it, and when it goes down, they buy it. It's pure speculation. Now, what you have to try and see through, or what I overwhelmingly recommend, is to focus on trends. Because the overall, even though you have the intraday, the intra-week, the intra-month trading and this rampant speculation, there is a trend. And this is what's shown in graphs. I don't want to pull up TradingView. My computer I have some upgrade parts coming, so next week the streams will get much better. Then I'll be able to pull up TradingView and hopefully zip through the charts. But the charts do highlight the larger, longer time frame macro trends, which are psychology. Looking at the graphs, the technical analysis does give highlights and insight into the psychology of these markets. It's quite fascinating. Um, and I think we're in the big picture, the longer time frames. We're obviously it's in appreciation mode, especially since post halving. This is quite obvious, at least the way I'm seeing it. I mean, look what's going on here. This is straight up appreciation mode. At least they're appreciating the functionality of the system and what it actually does technologically. As for the price of Ren, I don't even know where it's at, nor do I really care. It's not something that I would liquidate even if the price substantially changed. So it's going to get hammered, and that's the truth. I mean, heck, it could even appreciate. I mean, we've seen massive appreciation over the last couple of weeks. Kyber Synthetics is up 100%. Kyber is probably sitting at a dollar five. I mean, I think I got it like 70 cents. I mean, it's massive appreciation, especially historically speaking, compared to equities. Unless you're a micro small cap, but that's what these are. The entire crypto space is micro small caps, if you're thinking from a traditional equity standpoint. Out of interest, FGW says, am I into conspiracy theories? This is an actual great question. What is a conspiracy theory? Conspiracy theories have a negative connotation, but fundamentally they are theories. A theory is a theory is a theory is. And the only difference between the meaningfulness of a theory is when it comes time to prove the case. So there's nothing wrong. I hold no negative connotation to something considered a conspiracy theory. I consider it a theory, and what is more or less likely to actually be proven. So don't hold negative connotations to conspiracy theories. A conspiracy, by definition, is collusion. It's some shit going down well, look up the definition of conspiracy. So they don't inherently have a negative connotation, so there's a stigma against them. Because they tend to be outlandish and likely not necessarily the case, likely not provable. But this a theory is a theory. That's all it is. Seems that people into cryptos are ridiculed. Yeah, that's unfortunate because you know just equities are the status quo. But in so many regards, the same thing can be said about traders and managers in equities because it is so irrational. There's absolutely no fundamental reason to be invested in the FANG stocks or whatever's driving this market, which is basically the FANG stocks and the top of the tier technology plays. There's no rationality. In fact, it's so irrational. The only logic to betting uh, have a bullish position is that the federal government is going to backstop debt and support the zombie companies and support employment because the system won't. The system has been fundamentally disrupted. And the fundamental analysis dictates there should be a massive deflation and correction in asset evaluation, and that's not occurring. So there's no way to do a fundamental analysis of the markets and invest in this space. Very disturbing. Do you feel very certain that the market will be bigger and bigger during the next years and that Bitcoin can be 50K? Did you buy $1, so on and so forth? Yes. Um, no, I don't. There is no way to say that for certain, and in my mind, thinks in terms of inevitabilities. What is inevitable? That shit is going to go down with the legacy financial system. There's going to be systemic instability. And what I do know is the only way to best protect yourself is to be diversified, never go all in, never spread too thin, and the some of the more volatile and exciting ways to be diversified is in technologies that are disruptive of the status quo. Now, the legacy financial system is a status quo, and it is primed for systemic disruption. The banking system is antiquated, and DeFi is the disruptor. It changes everything. It is a technological disruptor. Not a disruptor, a disruptor. It is absolutely crazy how inferior DeFi makes the legacy financial system look, particularly with regard to over collateralization versus under collateralization. Over collateralized lending schemes are not systemically disruptive in the case of a default scenario. The legacy system is destroyed, and that is what's playing out. The solvency event approaches. We're going to have an unprecedented wave of bankruptcies, and the ones that are backstopped by the federal government will become zombie companies where their revenue stream is not enough to support their monthly debt servicing requirements. And the only way they maintain their debt servicing is via government handouts, a socialist program. What in your mind has to happen to cross from speculation to real value? Okay, unfortunately, what is real value? Pretty much everything and anything, even gold, is a consensus driven valuation. It's a shared belief that something has value. It's a perception. I believe, frankly, this ring has particular value because this was the first item that I purchased when I got one of my first jobs. Um, so that's What is value? This has more value to me than it does to someone else. Someone else will value that based on the materials that they can melt it down for and resell it. So it's a very psychological concept about real value. But I believe that there's much more momentum in crypto projects having long-term value appreciation than even many equities. Equities are a share of ownership of a company. Much of these crypto projects can be viewed from the lens of a company analysis. What is the product? How much is the product worth? And what's even more important is how disruptive it is of a legacy status quo system, and how much is that legacy status quo system, what is the volume? If you're trying to, so DeFi is disruptive of banks, we're talking trillions of dollars. That's a heck of a legacy system to be disruptive of. Ooh, so there's no way to say for certain what valuations will be. KB says, Viva Noah. Yeah. So there's no way to say anything for certain. Nothing is for certain. But we could say is tendencies, likelihoods, how likely something is to come to pass. Everything is relative. It's all estimations, gut instinct. And I place my gut instinct on the crypto space much more than I would on legacy equities. I think that this software, these UTXO smart contract networks and these platforms are profound companies. Companies, a new paradigm. Mick yeah, in the house. My man. Finally caught me live. Want to see a new coin that is instant, private, and slightly deflationary. Almost like Nano with the privacy of Monero. I mean, when you're heading down the road, a lot of, was it McAfee's Ghost coin? I don't know if it has a deflationary component. Privacy tech is quite interesting. For myself, the best privacy tech is Zcoin. Those boys are so scientific and mathematical. They're one of the few privacy technologies that have continuously, over the years, pushed for rigorous documentation, academic publication of literally algorithms. Um, Clearly, Monero has the traction predominantly because they are the key player in the dark markets. So they have entrenchment, and that's about it. Anything that has a deflationary component has a fundamental capacity to appreciate in value, which is why I'm so excited about Kyber. I think that the deflationary component is going to be so aggressive after the new protocol upgrade, which is basically imminent. It's not going to take another month or two. They literally said end of Q2, which is like now-ish. So that's where a lot of my excitement is right now. It dropped a fair amount over the last couple of days. I moved a fair amount of a position in at probably $1.14. It went down to about $1.05. Um, but bear in mind, I moved it in from Ethereum, and Ethereum took a dip as well. So whatever, the whole market takes a dip. I don't really care. Although it's you gotta put things into perspective because there is an emotional reaction when you see $8,000 drop off your portfolio in a matter of a couple hours. But you gotta think big picture. Um, Tether. KB says like Tether. Well, no, I don't want to. That's a long topic. Particularly stable coins are brilliant, and they change the whole paradigm in inflation destroyed fiat currencies. Argentina, Venezuela. I mean, this shit's going to play out in Turkey. Who knows what's going to go on over there unless they get uh what's that Fed program? Unless they get the swap line. It's quite scary. FGW says, thanks, Noah. What you say registers with me. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like these conversations, and I hope it helps put things into perspective. Mickmon says, it looks like Ethereum just found a way to do everything the other chains do well and swallow them. Woo! Correct me if I'm wrong, but Ethereum armed with RenBTC with Loopring could be the BTC lightning killer. Um, Ren is valued more than Lightning right now. It has more assets locked. So who knows what's going to play out with Ethereum 2.0, but fundamentally, I'm technologically for second layer scaling. And ZK rollup, and there's a couple of others that I can't ramble off the top of my head, but I like the second layer scaling, and I think there's ways to manage the gas prices with its first layer. Um, so, and that would allow for continued soft upgrades. We don't have to do a hard fork, which is essentially what Ethereum 2.0 is, other than the fact that it's a very technologically intensive soft hard fork. And who knows if there's going to be remnants of the original existing Ethereum network that persists past the rollout of Ethereum 2.0. I don't know, and we can't, we could speculate, but whatever. It's crazy times ahead. And Ethereum is it has destroyed the whole concept of an Ethereum killer. Why? Because it has the momentum. It will persist in perpetuity because you cannot disrupt an ongoing disruption. You can't disrupt an ongoing disruption. You have to wait for the ongoing disruption to settle, and we are not there. It took Apple 20 years to disrupt Microsoft because Microsoft was an ongoing disruption. That is the best example of how long it takes for a disruption to be disrupted. Script says, my man, if the small banks become zombies, wouldn't that push them into crypto? Very interesting thought. I mean, look at all the companies that are zombies. Um, I don't, it's not like they're necessarily going to become zombies, the small banks. What happens is they become nationalized. Basically, the government just buys all of their garbage, and now the bank is completely dependent on the bank is completely dependent on the government buying all the defaulted garbage, the under collateralized debt. And when something is under collateralized and a default scenario occurs, the debt becomes worthless and it becomes a liability. It's a loss, and that's basically the foundation of the legacy banking system. Under collateralized debt is a burden on the system when a default scenario arises. Over collateralized debt has absolutely no impact on the system itself, and that's why I'll give it to them. BlockFi, Celsius, was it Nexo? They're very cool, and I don't think there's yeah, they're centralized organizations, and that's the only distinction between them and Aave Compound and Maker. But their business model is far superior to the legacy banking system and legacy lenders because their model takes almost all risk out of their business. So they're good to go. Good for them. And clearly, the decentralized algorithm-based projects of a compound maker, it's lending. It's over collateralized lending. Total disruption of the banking system is underway. Absolutely incredible. And look at the adoption. Look at this access. We are accessing the equity in the system. Absolutely incredible. In the Bitcoin network, $170 billion of equity, and this because they want to bring it over to Ethereum because we have DeFi lending and we could have leveraged positions and we could generate yield on our historically dormant Bitcoin positions. Absolutely incredible. Script says, well, that's the small banks and zombies. Crypto Mac out. Hey, Script, love and appreciate your work. Oh, yeah, man. You keep it rolling. That's exciting stuff. Good to see what you do almost every day. A lot of people in the chat have very valuable contributions. Very exciting. Everyone's trying to make a difference. And one of the most important things is we can share information and knowledge. All right, 7 o'clock, everyone. Uh, let's see. It's a Sunday, so Monday opens up, and I think we're going to have a heck of an unfortunate Monday. We'll see. Look, look at that headline. We have to act. HHS Secretary warns window closing, and we'll see what happens. And my bet is they can't close the system because then the economy is going to fundamentally implode. How about that? People are against wearing masks. They're they'll never let the system close down again. So what's going to play out? Run it through your mind. As I run it through my mind, I'm keeping my ass at home. I have no interest in getting sick. I don't care if I'm not susceptible to infection. I have no time nor interest in getting sick. All right, so we ended the conversation in a topic that we started with, looking over some headlines, looking over Ren's insane adoption. Beautiful. So I had a couple of people on Twitter ask for like a blocknet service node deployment. That would be a nice topic. We'll see where we head this week with our topics. I tend to really like Q&A sessions. They really let the conversation unfold naturally, which is really cool. Um, let's cap it there. I have 12 p.m. tomorrow afternoon Eastern Standard Time. We'll have our normal daily chat of Noah Talks. It'll be the first official not sponsored by series. As you see here, we're not sponsored by DigiByte today. The most promising and awesomely tweaked at the protocol level UTXO blockchain is unanimously DigiByte. So we'll leave it there. Nicole, bro, peace out, brother. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and I will see you tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Peace.